Welcome back, good fellas, and we're back with another episode of Ask Tony Tuesday.
If you haven't got a clue, Tony's got the answer for you.
How are you today, Tony?
Doing awesome. How about you?
I am great. Are you ready for your first question of the day?
I am ready.
Okie dokie. First question of the day. What is the difference between a good seam and a bad seam?
That's an excellent question. Over the years, I've seen a lot of good seams, ours, and I've seen a lot of bad seams. And it's funny, I go in people's houses, or especially, as commercial jobs, I go in the men's room or anything, in a hotel or a restaurant, the seams they get away with to me is like, I don't even know how people get paid for that, but they do. A seam should be like a pencil line, and it should be the color of the stone. Anything more than a thin pencil line is not a good seam. I've seen seams that are 1/8 inch, 3/16, 1/4 inch wide that has a caulk joint in it. That is not a good seam. Basically, to do the seam, you color match it. So what you do is you get it. You want to pull it as tight as possible. But the key is you want to avoid the big 26-inch seam if you can. It depends on the stone and the layout. But you try to avoid that because nobody wants to see a 26-inch seam, even though sometimes you can't avoid it. What we try to do is if we can put a seam at the sink, that's where we try to keep it, because that way you're only seeing 4 inches in the front, and with the faucet in the back, you're not even seeing the seam in the back. But the key is to a good seam is you have to get enough glue in there. So a lot of times what people will do, or fabricators will do, is they'll put the glue on and they pull it close together. But when they pull it close together and they pull it really tight, all the glue comes out, and you basically have just a little bit of glue on both sides. Well, if there's any kind of movement or twisting in the cabinetry, that seam is probably going to come apart because there's very little glue there. What we do is we like to slot both sides of the stone. By slotting both sides of the stone, you get a lot more glue in on both sides, and it goes into those slots, and it forms what's almost like a carpenter have these wood chips they call biscuits. And it forms a biscuit in there once it hardens. So the stone can't twist, for one, and there's a lot more glue, so that's going to make it adhere. So, and we color match everything. We have a complete mix of colors, so we color the glue that matches the stone, and we try to make the seam as invisible as possible. So that's the key to a good seam. It should be, try to avoid the big seam if you can. And unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that will try to get everything out of one slab, and you'll end up with a bunch of seams. You shouldn't end up with a bunch of seams. I mean, unless it's an exuberantly large kitchen, you should be able to get away with maybe just one seam at the sink, maybe a second seam if there's a big L or something. But other than that, you shouldn't have 3, 4, 5 seams. I mean, that's just insane. But I've seen it. So the key, like you said, the key to a good seam: pull it tight, color match it. If you're home, look at the seam you have in your house. If you see that you have a seam that's an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch thick, I hate to tell you, you got a bad seam. There's not much you can do about it now, but that's what you got.
Ready for your next question?
I'm ready.
Second question of the day. Can we do big islands in one piece?
We can, and we prefer to do them in one piece. The big challenge today is everybody wants large islands. And listen, who doesn't want a large island? Everybody congregates around an island in the kitchen. That's the entertaining spot. The problem is a lot of these kitchen manufacturers are making islands now 12, 13, 14, 16 feet long. Well, here's the problem. Most slabs only come in at about 10 feet long. So it's impossible. I don't have any kind of special machine where I can stretch the slab or anything like that. So if you make your island bigger than the slab, you are going to get a seam. There's no way to avoid it. So if you want that one-piece island, make sure that the cabinet manufacturer makes the island no bigger than the slab will be, so to ensure that we can do it in one piece. The other thing to do is to make sure that if you want that big island, that we have a way to get it. We have a clear shot in. It's a straight shot. We have to be able to go right through. We can't turn it. We got to get straight in, and that will help us to get the island in. So we have to have easy access for one, and the slab has to be, the cabinetry has to be smaller than the slab in order for us to do it in the one piece.
I like how you said that it has to fit through, like the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a way.
I mean, we just did a job last week, and they wanted these real long countertops, and it's fine. We always try to make them as long as possible because we don't want to make a lot of seams. Like I said, we always try to avoid a seam if we can. But the only entrance was you had to turn around this corner to get it in. So we had to basically lift it up almost straight up vertically in order to get it in because we couldn't make the turn. But you can do that on a 26-inch piece island. I mean, I don't recommend it. It's difficult. You always risk breaking it. But when it's a giant island that's 4 or 5 feet wide by 120 inches long, there's just no way to turn it to get in or lift it up to get it in. It needs to be a straight shot to get in.
Yeah. A lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
And then they'll buy things and they'll get
Yeah.
home and
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah,
oh.
I mean, it's like buying a couch if you can't get into the elevator if you live in an apartment. How do you get up there?
Me and Angel, when she moved out of her old apartment, we took the couch and we put it over the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean,
With a string, and we didn't just throw it over there. Like we halted it down. But
hold it down.
yeah, that's all the questions that I have for you today.
Okay.
Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. Don't forget, even though the weather is getting colder outside, we do have a heated indoor showroom.
We do.
So if it's snowing or it's not the best day outside, you can still come and look for your materials comfortably. We'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you for answering our questions,
Thanks
Tony.
for asking.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Have an awesome rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you guys next week.
Oh, well, we forgot to turn the camera on.
Yeah, so this round 2, take 2, because we just did a whole episode. And
Flawlessly,
nothing was,
by the way.
Yes, it was very well. No mistakes, no
Nope.
nothing.
Nope.
And the video wasn't going. So,
It happens. Fire the cameraman.
on the camera. And this better be on. I checked it. I waved my hand in front of it.